It is lovely to have you all here. We are launching this bad boy. Oh, there's a picture of it there. Look at that. There you go. Yeah, it's been lovely. Well, I'll bring Mark Stay on in a minute. We'll have a chat about it. But it's been it's weird because the first book is the Stranger Times book. Oh God, I've got a copy of that as well. Oh, maybe knocked over the thing. That came out in hardback last year, but no bookshops in the entirety of Britain or indeed Ireland at the time were open. So yeah, it was a bit weird. I kept getting pictures of displays of it in Australia. California, got me quite a few. Bunny Mafia, yeah, Ashford, Surrey, lovely to have you there. The Bengals were robbed. Sandy, go easy now. Come on, they were lucky to be there. Come on, be fair. We were basically one hand behind our back with only one wide receiver. I mean, let's not get into it now, but let's just say the best team won. But don't be wrong, I love the Bengals. We were also, it's weird because they were the big underdog that even as a Rams fan, you're kind of going, it would be nice if they won. It's pretty cool. But unfortunately, Aaron Donald happened. Anyway, without further ado, I've started talking about the NFL now. I should really get... So let's bring on the man, the myth, the legend. You know him. You love him. He is the author of The Witches of Woodville and two very fine books in that series. I think the third one's coming out fairly soon. I will ask him about that in a minute. But please welcome... first, actually, before we do that, bring on Mark now. Pop on Mark there. There he is.
Hello!
You told me. How are you, Mark?
I'm good, man. I'm reading it for the second time. I'm very, very good. Yeah.
It's such a good kiss art. I should explain, by the way, before we get into everything else, you can see her in the comments there, but Wonder Wife, would you like to pop on and say hello? She's very shy, but at the same time, she did change her outfit before this, so she's clearly expecting that.
Giving away all my trade secrets. Come on.
Honestly, she was covered in dog hair and soup earlier on. She did have that discussion with me earlier on. We said, take your hoodie off if you're going to sit down because it'll be covered in dog hair otherwise. And you're like one of those people I see on trains covered in dog hair. And I was like, when I see someone covered in dog hair on a train, I think that person has a bloody good life. So Elaine, you can just say hello to everyone there now.
Well, I'm desperately trying to get back to everybody and say hello in comments, so bear with me. I will reply at some point.
And you are drinking, I believe, very appropriately for the night, a dark and stormy.
I like to match my drinks by the weather.
Yeah,
just the way forward.
It's a ginger. That's a ginger beer.
Ginger ale, rum.
I'm
supposed to have a slice of lime, but I'm a heathen.
Oh, okay. Good. Right. Well, I think we can probably. I think everyone's more or less here, so we can crack on. So, Mark, before we get on to my stuff,
yes, sir.
Congratulations on the second book. I've given it a big up to the thing. Genuinely, absolutely, I properly loved it. I've been telling lots of people about it and stuff. When's the third one due out?
July. The Ghost of Ivy Barn is coming in July. And I'm just waiting for the edit to come back, basically. And in the meantime, I'm writing more short stories based in the same world that I give away on my website. So short stories, they're hard. Short stories are hard. Really, really hard.
I quite like short stories because I've done, obviously, anyone here who's listened to the podcast, if you haven't, the Stranger Times podcast, go find it. Because I have, there's probably about 10 or 12 short stories on it now. I really like doing them because I quite like you can just sort of grab a concept and just run with that for a bit. And yeah.
Well, the mistake I've made, certainly this one's historical. And I've discovered that if you try and write something set in Roman times based only on your knowledge of the Asterix books, you're going to run into a few problems. So luckily, I've got an editor who knows what he's on about, should be available very, very soon. But look, we're not here to talk about me. Look at this, look at this. Absolutely blown away by this. Absolutely loved it. Now, one thing, Caimh, I saw you were in London signing books. Was that today? That was today, wasn't it?
That was yesterday. I was down. It's weird because I said earlier the thing that's been odd is because the first book came out. And when it was great, I sort of did media stuff and everything. I didn't leave the house because nothing was open and it was all online. And kind of when you're, a part of this was because, as you all know, it's weird when I'm doing media interviews because I'm sort of pretending like the Stranger Times is my debut, whereas the reality is I've written 13 books now. Yeah. but this is my traditionally published debut. So it's in bookshops and all that sort of thing. And kind of big part of that was it'd be cool to go in and see your book in a bookshop. Then when the first one came out, we couldn't go into a bloody bookshop.
Yeah, you and me
it
both.
was except the only bookshops they were in was in Australia, and I was like being shown pictures of displays in Australia.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then weirdly, because it was it only really got into bookshops here really in January, because it's kind of it's one of those things with hardbacks that if you don't get in, like they're there for the first few months to release most of the time, and then they're sort of out of circulation, as you know well, Mark. So I didn't see my book in a bookshop for nearly a year. I think start of January was when I first saw the Stranger Times paperback. But this week's been cool because I went down and Goldsboro do the limited edition thing where they spray the pages and there's all these things and you get numbered and signed. And last year I did that picture with me and Diller at the kitchen table where I built a fort because they had to send them up in boxes. So I built a fort, which the Goldsboro people still love, by the way. It was Hairless Talking said, oh yeah, we all remember the fort. No one's ever done that before. It's like, what a surprise. But I was down yesterday signing all the books, and it's cool because some of them you have to put a line in, like from the book and all this, and date all of them and number them and all. So we did 250 of them, which have apparently already sold out, which is cool. And then I was going around, I think I said, if anybody's in London, there's a couple of Waterstones and a Foils, and Forbidden Planet have quite a few signed books as well.
Yes.
And that was cool because, like, I remember you were in Forbidden Planet signing books recently as well, weren't you?
Yeah, I love it there. Now, one thing I noticed is you said on Twitter that you got a special left-handed signing pen. And I'm left-handed too, and I've got one, which I don't really use because, well, it looks like something you might find in the Ann Summers website.
Yes,
in the discreet handbag section. Is this the sort of thing that you've got?
I did. It has to be said, it didn't work. It might, maybe if you get a really fancy one, but I ended up buying myself a very fancy pen because if anyone's seen the pictures of me signing books, my handwriting is shockingly bad, and it's honestly because I was left-handed, and I never got all my teachers were right-handed. They just never got me, holding the pen right. Even my mother and stuff. My mother's massively big into education. She's an Irish mammy. They don't mess around. And yeah, my handwriting's always been appalling. I didn't realize at the time what they were doing, but when I was a kid, I was being brought to these places and being tested. And it's because they thought there must be something going on because my handwriting was bad. And I kept putting B's and D's the wrong way around. And they literally kept testing me because my mother, God love her, was convinced he's a very smart child. We just need to figure out what's going wrong. My mum, because like I was told I was going to fail English when I was 15, like properly. This is ironic for someone who's going to become a novelist. Genuinely was told I was going to fail English because no one could read when I did. Because in exams you have to write an essay or a short story or stuff.
Yeah.
No one could read what they're written. And so that's why I ended up doing engineering because people can read your sums. But the left-hand pen didn't work. But the fancy pen's done a better job. It looks a bit better.
Do you do that thing where you sort of write upside down? That's what I do. And it feels,
I
it feels perfectly normal to me. And when I see photos or film of me doing it, it's like, what are you doing? But it's that thing. If you try and sign a book, it's all on the wrong. This is all on the wrong side.
It is that you do have to do it at an angle, as anyone will notice with the thing. Yeah. But so apologies because I know a lot of people here would have got pre-ordered, and then Shane Starr, how are you, sir? You got one of Diller's hairs in your Goldsboro book. Well, that's worth some money, my friend. Hang on to that. What was I saying about? We did all the cards. Thank you very much, people who pre-ordered, because we had a couple of hundred people who pre-ordered, and we send them Valentine's Day cards, which I know some of them mightn't have reached America and Australia yet, but most everybody else should have got theirs by now. If not, do drop an email to Wonder Wife and she'll sort it out for you. But she did sterling work on all those. An absolutely fantastic thing. Can I sign your audiobook? Yeah, people do. I've had people sort of go, well, I can't get it signed as a Kindle. They're like, I mean, do you want me to scratch my name on top of your Kindle? But yes, no. If you want, I'll burp into a microphone, record it for you, and send it to you, and we'll just call that it's about the same as my signature, to be fair.
It's the personal touch that counts. Now, folks, what's going to happen today? We're going to talk for a bit. We're going to open up to questions to you guys. We've got some questions that came in advance as well, and then we've got a special guest. We've got Brendan McDonald, who is the audiobook narrator of Stranger Times and This Charming Man. But before all that, for those who've not dipped into this magnificent tome yet, this charming, I assume it's. I mean, someone's already mentioned Morrissey and the Smiths. So I assume it's a tribute to their greatness. Is that correct?
I wouldn't say it's a tribute to their greatness because I mean the Smiths are good and Johnny Marr's all right. But let's be clear, for those people who don't know Morrissey, I'm not a fan. For obvious reasons. But yes, what it is it's a very Manchester thing, and the Smiths were more people than just Morrissey. So but basically the idea is because they are based in Manchester. To be honest, the Stranger Times book went through a few names. I originally called it What Stalks the Night, which is actually mentioned. I think it was a headline in the paper. So yeah, there was that, and then I kind of wanted to call it Grounds for Divorce, which is an Elbow song, which is another great Manchester band. But because it was the first one, they said they really want the name to just be the newspaper, so it'll set up the brand. But I can tell you from now on, all of the Stranger Times books will have as titles the names of Manchester songs. I already know the title of the next book. I probably shouldn't say it now, but I know what it is. But yeah, and I also have the title of a couple of other books in the series and stuff. Because weirdly, I'm actually I know somebody asked the question about we'll come on to later because somebody asked the question about when you've written the book and how far you are with the next one and stuff. So I'll cover that when we get to that. So because I know somebody's going to...
But here we got, this is, it's book 2, Stranger Times. You're setting up the world, you're setting up the precinct, you're introducing characters for the first time. Were you able to hit the ground running with this one, or does a second book present its own challenges?
I think generally hit the ground running sort of thing. You do have, I mean, you've probably been told this as well. It is a thing they sort of say that, look, an editor will go, look, we need you to kind of remind people at the start of the next book who the people are and stuff. So you do have to do a bit of that. But you're, it's one of these difficult things where I know a lot of people have read This Charming Man, like reviewers and bloggers and stuff, without reading the first book, and generally they've really enjoyed it and stuff. But the way I am, I think you're probably the same as me, Mark. I wouldn't dream of starting something at the second thing because some people can't. Like this is two very different mentalities. Myself and my wife. If we record something on a Sky Plus box and the box misses the first minute of the program, I can't watch it. I get really you're exactly because you're a writer and that scene was there for a good reason.
Yeah, absolutely. I was at the cinema a couple of weeks ago, and there were a couple of girls in front of us buying tickets, and they were going to see the Scream film, and the person behind the counter said the film started, not trailers. The film started 10 minutes ago, and I'd have been, that's it, I'm out. Good night, everyone. I'm going home. They were like, oh yeah, that's all right. What those first 10 minutes? How much do you sweat over the first chapter of a book or the first 10 minutes of a screenplay?
The first line, the first chapter. Yeah, a lot. So, but Elaine has got. I mean, Elaine generally will watch a crime show, fall asleep, wake up at the end, and go, "Oh, it was him." Okay. Genuinely drives me mad. She's probably there now. Sort of, I'm going to get grief later on from it. But yeah, she does. So I would always start with the first book, but you can certainly start this one with the second. But yeah, so that was, But yeah, when you've established the characters and stuff, you've established the voice of them, in your own head. And I know we'll talk to Brendan later on, the fantastic Brendan, which I know loads of people have said how much they enjoyed his narration. He has done a cracking job. But it's probably the same weirdly. We'll ask to Brendan where he's literally established the voices in the first book. So he has to go back and so you do the same where I kind of read the previous book and get the voices in my head again. And then you can go from there. So it was great. And there were things like certain characters were quite small in the first book, ended up coming into the second one. Because it's kind of like with the bunny books. I have a terrible habit of I write characters that's supposed to be there for one chapter. And then they have, I mean, literally, but the biggest example of this is I have the characters of of Diller and Smithy, as in who Diller the dog is named after. People get quite confused now because they know the dog more than the character. But Diller and Smithy, who were just brought in supposedly for one bunny book, and they've now had their own book. So I have a terrible way of collecting characters like that. So and that happened again with this. And
this one, we have gone for vampires, but not the usual kind of vampires. You got a nice spin on vampires, haven't you? Tell us.
Yeah, well, it was interesting because I think it sort of came from. I mean, I sound terribly serious when I say this, but I sort of think I've never really understood why they're supposed to be these sexy, characters. And this is a lot of vampire stuff. And vampires are back apparently. And if you're aware of this, there was a thing in the bookseller a couple of weeks ago vampires are back. I was genuinely shocked to find out they'd gone away in some way, because they seem to be everywhere anyway.
Yeah,
but I've always thought them as, because I thought genuinely it's sort of, it's, if you think about it, like, or I know it's just fantasy, but like the ideal they're holding up is somebody who's behaving horribly, like it's toxic masculinity. And I've always been, there's this thing, PUA, pickup artists, which I don't know if anybody might have heard of. I did research them years ago for a thing. I think I was going to try and do a drama or something. But it's a fascinating thing where, if anyone doesn't heard of these things, which most of you haven't, it sort of started out for this weird thing in America where it was a class for people with bad social skills and sort of shy guys to try and get them better at meeting women was the idea. It sort of started off as quite a healthy thing. But that whole thing went horribly into this sort of gamified thing where all of a sudden it was about how many phone numbers you could get, and women were now a goal, no longer a person, and pretty horrible. And but it's kind of fascinating. And yes, so I kind of, because of all that sort of all fed into my version of vampires. Yeah, which isn't something I never set out to sort of write a vampire book, but that kind of came into it that way. Yeah,
it's interesting. Susan in the comments, Susan Woodcarver says best vampires were Pratchett's vampires, which I agree with. But of course, I remember a quote from Terry years ago saying he wasn't a fan of vampires because they're leeches, they're parasites. They're, like when you think
they're creepy sex pests.
Yeah, exactly. Horrible people. But again, he put a nice twist on them. You put a really nice.
Yeah, well, Pratchett's look. We can say Pratchett did everything best because he did. Man was a genius. Let's be very clear.
No question. You were talking about characters coming in and coming out again. There's a character, Stanley Roker, and I think he was in book 1, and he was in one of your short stories, Dance with the Devil, and he comes back. Is that something that surprised you? Was that planned ahead?
Yeah, I think it probably came out when I wrote him the first time round. It was kind of almost like a sort of, how do I get this done? This is the chapter. I'll use this guy. It'll show Bancroft's history as a tabloid journalist, a tabloid editor. But I kind of had this guy who was basically irredeemable. That was like the thing. He was just the worst of the worst tabloid journalists. And then I did the short story where I had the idea where I used him. And I think then he just was in my head. And I sort of went, and I like the idea that he's trying to, basically somebody who's frankly irredeemable trying to redeem themselves, like a horrible human, someone who's been terrible, who now thinks, oh, I'm like, stuff happens to him that isn't his fault, to be fair. But he's like, oh, is this my sort of karmic thing for being a bad person for a long time? And he's trying to redeem himself. And I like that I think that's a good character arc where somebody's really trying to turn themselves around. So I think that made him interesting. And again, being a proper tabloid journalist, I think I sort of say this in the book, or maybe it's something that comes in, but it's kind of Bancroft's attitude that when he realizes that they're dealing with the founders and all, I were in book 1, all these sorts of, they're dealing with a serious enemy. His attitude with Stanley Roker is, we're now in a dirty war, and we need someone who knows how to fight dirty, because that's why Stanley Roker becomes useful to him in that regard. So he's willing to let Stanley in, and Stanley's there basically to kind of find answers for the things that have happened to him in the short story and redeem himself at the same time.
No, it was great fun to see him back. This book is, well, the first book was dedicated to the city of Manchester. So I just wonder if Andy Burnham's been on the blower with keys to the city or anything. No, okay,
nothing yet, but
But this book is in memory of Ian Cognito. It says R.I.P. Rage in perpetuity. Now, Ian, according to Wikipedia, was Britain's most banned comedian.
Well, let me put it this way, because they do describe him that way. But I did this in the podcast last week because but Ian Cognito was it was brilliant. I mean, and it was because the most banned thing, I know where that comes, because he did get booted out of a lot of venues, but for things like hammering a nail into their wall. That kind of thing. It's just now because people think that and they go, oh, he's probably saying something horrible. He wasn't saying things about particular groups and stuff. That wasn't what Ian was. But what he was his performance skills were incredible, man. I mean, I said this in the podcast, but like, I can remember him doing a gig, throwing the mic off, just having this little guitar, walking up and down the middle of this audience. And he's literally at points screaming in people's faces to say something, and then he's pulling back. And it's a weird thing where he's this sweet little charming man, and then he's this raging guy. Just an incredible presence. And the sad thing about him in a way is I mean, he should have been more well known than he was, but as he says himself, even his son said the same thing in interviews and stuff like that. Is he was his own worst enemy. He literally, I mean, one of the stories, there's a brilliant documentary which hopefully is going to get a wider viewing. I think it's called A Life and the Death on Stage, because he did. That's the sad thing is he did actually die on stage. In a friend of mine, Andrew Bird's gig in 2019. There's actually a thing at the start of that documentary, which is, I presume it's true. They wouldn't have put it in otherwise, but it's a recording of the 999 call when they rang in to say he's collapsed on stage. And there's and the guy, but the 999 guy's going, who is he? Is he incognito? Is he a famous comedian? And like, just an extraordinary thing. But it sort of it made the press around the world because comedian dies on stage was a kind of, you know, I mean, they wouldn't describe it as funny, but that's what they had it because of the unusual nature. But the reality was he was a brilliant performer, just extraordinary, and just this amazing character. And don't get me wrong, he could be brilliant, he could be difficult. I can remember him falling out with me, and then the next time we got on great, and he fell out with me once because I remember the conversation with him going because somebody said something about me they didn't say it was me, but they said something about a comedian behaving badly to talking to somebody, and you said, "Oh, that's not on. You can't talk to people like that." And that was me. How dare you? And I was like, "Okay, Ian. First off, that was me, but I didn't do that." I said, "Okay, Ian. Well, I didn't know who it was. Secondly, if you didn't do the thing that was laid out there, then I wasn't criticizing you, was I? Because that, as you said, wasn't you." And he was like, "Fuck off, mate." But at the same time, he was a very sweet man when he wanted to be, and he was just amazing as a performer and stuff, and an incredible character. Like people say, "Oh, an amazing character," and it sounds like a real, you know, it's a cliche thing to say, but he really was extraordinary. So yeah, I ended up naming a character after him, which was the weird thing was I sort of named the character, and then he kind of, it's not him, but there definitely are elements of him in the character, and it's quite strong there. There's a lot of jokes for people who would know him, like he lives on a boat in the middle of the canal of Manchester, and the boat's called a nail on the wall because he famously used to hammer a nail into a wall at the start of his set. So there's all these kind of things, but honestly, the really odd thing was, which I never really thought was, oh, I should check with his family, like his two sons that survived him, to make sure they're cool with this. And I was like, when you sit down and go, "Hello, you've not met me. I know your dad quite well. I've written a character based," and you're going, "This is the weirdest email. I've not thought this through at all." But luckily, look, they're from comedy. You know, they've been around comedy their whole lives. And I sent the book to Ollie's son, and he read it, and he got it. He said, "Look, I think, yeah." He was, because I'll be honest, I was really nervous doing that. I was like, "Oh, maybe I should just change the name of the character." But luckily they got it and stuff. And it's, I have to say, I mean, people who've read this Charming Man or whatever, I think the Cogs thing is probably the most fun part of it. Because he's a character that's forced to tell the truth. He's living on a boat with a dog that talks, which is obviously, you know, always a fun thing for me. And that combination of characters, I just ended up being really sweet and working for me. And they'll obviously be reappearing, I think, throughout books, because it's a great way of having somebody find something out with somebody who can't lie to you. That's a phenomenal thing. So yeah, it ended up being a lot of fun.
Wonderful stuff. Now, we're going to open it to questions in just a second. Just to say as well, there's going to be a giveaway at the end. Brendan McDonald still to come. I've got a note here. Leave reviews, people, if you've enjoyed this Charming Man.
Oh, yes.
Or the audiobook. Do please leave a positive, glowing review at wherever you bought it, because these all help. These all help get the word
just
out.
Anywhere you can, folks, basically. Audible, Amazon, or any of the other sites, anything like that. They're always great if you get the chance. I know this thing we always say, but if you can, we really do appreciate them, and thank you very much when you do.
Really do.
Yes.
So we got some questions that came in advance. So Jerry Riley says, how much say or control do you have over which territories or languages your books are published in? And I saw recently Stranger Times in Germany. You're big in Germany, aren't you?
Yeah, it's bizarre, but it's gone really, because the weird thing was it came out in Germany when shops were open in Germany. And yeah, it was lovely. Sort of all these displays and stuff. I think we sent a picture out to the mailing list and stuff, which has been really cool. And it's gas, because there's always this lazy cliche with the Germans, which I never liked anyway, those with no sense of humor. Every German I've known has always had a very good sense of humor. Yeah. And they genuinely, it's weird because they, one of the odd things going, "Oh, I love British humor." And I'm always going, well, I mean, it's not, technically Irish, but you know, it's that sort of, it's that knee jerk. Any Irish person hears an interview going, well, because we always, this is the classic Irish thing. How dare anybody else claim one of ours? And even bizarrely, even when it's me, I'm going, well, you know. But at the same time, look, it's set in Britain and stuff, so I get why it is, you know, that element to it. But no, it's been great, and it's been mad because like all these sort of Instagrammers in Germany, and you have to hit translate and read the review in a different language. But they've loved it. It won like a book of the year thing in some fantasy website over there. It was cool. And actually, just found out today they sent us an email saying how pleased they were, and that the second book is out at the end of September. And this time I wasn't able because of COVID last time to go, but this time I'm going to go over and do a few events in Germany, which would be cool. I mean, fantastic. I think the one thing when you hear that, folks, the same thought must be occurring to you as occurred to me is that God love that translator, because I am graduation. If you can translate me at the speed I talk, you are the best translator on the planet. But yeah, to go back to the question thing, yeah, I mean, basically we sign deals for these things, so we sort of have various publishers, producers, approaches and stuff like that. So I mean, when they come out, is very much they're on different schedules. Even with, I think this Charming Man, hopefully it should be all out in America tomorrow. It definitely should be Australia and Canada, I think, but it should all be out in America, because last time around we had that, which I know a lot of America got annoyed by, and believe me, so did we, because we were like, going, why is it not out in America? Come on. But as you know, you've had that with your books, Mark, where I think some of yours aren't actually still available in America, bizarrely, aren't they?
No. The rights are available, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
But yes.
Yeah, no, it's a weird thing where it's just the way traditional publishing works, but I understand it's very annoying for people, and believe me, it's more annoying for us. But yeah, but we've had, that's sort of answer the question. I think we've signed ones in Spain. It's out in Spain. It's out, as I said, in Germany. Quite a few Eastern European countries. Here's an odd thing, Mark. Last week, I had to record a video for the Russian publishers where you just talk about the book and say hello. And like, bear in mind, and if you've seen the news, Russia's in the news a lot recently. And you just feel like you're literally, I was sitting right where I am going, hello, people in Russia. And you're really tempted to go, let's not have a war. We just had a pandemic. We books are in bookshops now. Let's not fuck it up by having a nuclear bomb. So like, but yeah, it is really weird. We had to record that message. Remember that Sting song? I hope the Russians love their children too.
Yes, I've sold the Russian rights to my one, and there's a strain. I've not heard anything back from them yet. We've just had a communique come through saying that Dominique, your German editor, is with us. So hello, Dominique.
Oh, Dominique, hello. Yeah, they've done such a good job, and the translation clearly is phenomenal. Because people really, I mean, you may even. That's always the thing when someone translates your book. Because part of me thinking, has he bunged in his own jokes? I remember a comedian talking about having when somebody signs the gig with you, along with you, do this thing with sign language, which is a great thing. I know my friend Sarah does it on her tour at various different locations. But someone did a very funny routine about doing a gig once where someone is signing along to deaf people, and there was a distinct laugh, and he went, I'm pretty sure the signer just did their own gag, because I didn't have a gag there. And he's like, is the signer gone off script? But yeah, lovely to have you. I'm very excited to come to Germany. Very excited indeed. Can't wait, because I mean, it's great doing. That's the great thing of this week is we're having the event tomorrow. As you've all been on the email thing. We're doing it at 6:00 in Waterstones on Deansgate in Manchester, and that's cool because that's bizarrely, for all the books I've had, that's the first actual author event I am doing in person. And you know yourself, Mark, when your book comes out and stuff, you want to see it on a shelf. Yes. You want to, and like today it was great. I went into Blackwell's in Manchester, it's a great bookshop, and I had a display in both my book, because you have that thing where, I've had it before, where you go in and you go, oh, it's not here, and that's pretty depressing. But I looked around and went, oh, I can't find it. Went, oh, because it's in the display. And I was like, oh wow. So I was just, I was really chuffed with that and signing the books. And I've been signing the books and sticking. I've done a newspaper of the Stranger Times. You've seen it, haven't you, Mark?
Oh, I've got one. Thank you very much. Yes.
Yeah, but we have some, and I'm shoving them into the odd hardback here and there as a kind of fun thing, because it's an 8-page version. I actually made a newspaper, and we're now, we're gonna give one to people who they come tomorrow night, and I've been shoving them into the books in London and all that sort of stuff as well. And it's just great to be able to go out and see your book in bookshops, and to I was actually signing them in Waterstones, like copies of the paperback a couple of weeks ago, and I was sitting down chatting to one of the staff, and it was great because a bloke just wandered up and said, sorry, I just heard, can I get one of the books? And as Elaine said when he came home, and said, "Did you sign it for him?" I said, "Oh no, I probably should have dedicated. Yeah, I didn't dedicate it to the guy. The guy came up, who was nice enough to come up. I was like, I should have dedicated a bloody book." But yes, there we go. God, I've been chatting to you. God, we're already at 35 minutes. Yeah,
it's great. We've got a question from Ross McComb, who says you've created a very involved world with the Bunnyverse, and it looks like you're doing the same thing with Stranger Times. Do you find the two intermingling when writing, and do you have to stop yourself from inviting someone from one world into the other? And Caimh, you know, everything's about a multiverse these days, a metaverse. Yeah. Will there be crossovers?
There won't be crossovers. Well, there is, weirdly, in the first book. There is a cheeky little crossover. Dominique's probably going to find this out for the first time. Just in the sense that there's the Loon Day in the book where all the people turn up and give him the stories. And one point, a guy turns up and starts talking about pandas on the moon. And randomly, that's a weird thing that the character called Phil Nellis comes up with in one of the books of the Bunny books. He just comes up. So basically, that is Phil Nellis. He's never told his name. He never says his name, but that character just sort of wanders in and he starts talking about pandas on the moon. And it's like, well, why do you think there's pandas on the moon? He's like, three. It was like, I remember the thing was three things. One, that could be where they came from. Two, Chinese space program. Or three, stag do. And it's like, that was the explanation of what. But yeah, so yeah, there's no plans to integrate them further than that because they are different worlds. But yeah, I sort of put that in more as a sneaky thing to entertain myself and the few people who might spot it.
We've got a question from Steve the Star Spicer. In a recent podcast, he mentioned that this charming man was actually finished about a year ago. Mm-hmm. So how far along are you on book number 3?
Well, to bring you behind the curtain, Steve, I mean, normally, technically, you're supposed to finish the next book before the last one comes out. But also my German editor is about to find this out at the same time. That, because of family circumstances stuff, there was a bit of delay. But I'm, I think, 35,000 words into the next book, and I have it all plotted out for the first time, really. I've plotted out a book from start to finish in great detail. I'm pointing over here, by the way, because there's a board over here where I have the whole thing laid out in great detail. And literally, like next Monday, once the sort of launch is out of the way, it's going to be very much cracking on with that, which I'm really excited to get going on, to be honest. But yeah, so normally, but it is, you do write these things quite far in advance. So yeah, it's but that will be finished hopefully in the next couple of months, and I'm not sure when the release date will be next year, but hopefully fairly early next year.
That's interesting. You're outlining a lot more this time. Is there a reason for that? Is it because of the nature of the story, or? Yeah,
I mean, it was a complicated story. I mean, weirdly, I actually came up with a very detailed outline for the third book, and I actually really liked that idea for a book. But I looked at it and went, I think this is maybe the 5th or 6th book in this series, which hopefully I'll get to write. But I was like, it sort of went this. I think I kind of have, so I weirdly have a very detailed plan for a book in the future. And then I kind of went back to this one. I thought, no, I need to do something else because I want to close off certain things. Because that way you sort of, there's different words, or be open loops as a writer. There's certain things, there's storylines that are sort of left open. And I think the third one is going to resolve certain storylines in the books without giving too much away. I'd say storylines involving Simon and Bancroft, put it that way. I mean, right. When you're reading the book, those kind of will get more resolved at the end of the third book. But other things then will continue on, because I felt it was one of those things I felt as a reader, I would actually really like to know what's going on there, and I don't want to drag it out too long. So I thought, yeah, let's deal with that and then move on to other things. And I'm pleased with the idea. I think the third book is going to be probably a little bit darker in the sense that it's resolving some things, and there's going to be some tough decisions and stuff, which you expect. You build up the characters, and then what you know yourself as a writer, you've got to put them in a situation where they're really tested and it's going to be awkward. And then just Jerry's question, is it another trilogy? Nope. Stranger Times is not going to be a trilogy. It will be a Caimh trilogy in the sense that there will be several books in it that are more than the increase, as in the Dublin trilogy's now got 6. And let's be fair, the Dublin trilogy is going to reach double figures if anyone's interested. And fingers crossed Stranger Times will too, because I honestly, it's weird because people were asking me this week in interviews, I was going, I don't even think I've scratched the surface. I honestly don't. No. Even with the third book, I just feel like there's so much you want to do with these characters. So it's been
the same thing. Yeah. One very quick question before we bring on Brendan. It's Stephen Beagry says, who would win in a drinking competition between Vincent Bancroft, Buddy McGarry, and Jackson Lamb?
Jackson. Well, it's a tough one. That is. I'm gonna have Bancroft just because Bancroft drinks in the morning, and that's like he will, and then goes through. I would say, I mean, Bunny, yeah, because Bunny's a big drinker, but he's had some vicious hangovers over the various books. There's the one where he wakes up naked with toast on his back. So I think Bunny's going to come third there, and I'll put Lamb in the middle. Yeah, so I know there's a few other questions. Do you want to just quickly, and then we'll bring Brendan on, but let's do a speed round.
Okay. Will there be a book signing tour of Canada, specifically Toronto? I'll buy you a pint. I'm not sure who that's from.
I mean, whoever that is, I would bloody love to do that. And I can speak for my wife, where she's going, yeah, we would love to in a heartbeat. So it's one of these things, if you get a chance, as I say, really excited to go to Germany. It'd be great to go other places as well. And my wife is mad keen to get on a plane. So believe me, anywhere we can, we would love to.
That was from Tom Argall in Canada.
Oh, the quick one, because I know somebody had asked about the rights versions and stuff. We've never shown this before, but weirdly, the Bunny books and stuff, these are... I think this is, I'm not even sure, I think these are the Czech versions. I think that's The Day That Never Comes. This is Last Orders, I think. Just go, I know the covers. Muz Bez Chavere, that's the thing. These, by the way, genuinely, you talk about being big in Germany. Randomly, Czechoslovakia is really big. They've bought the audiobook rights and stuff. This is a Stranger Times one. I think this is from Germany. Oh no, it's not Germany. Sorry, I think this is from. I'm not actually even sure where this is from, to be honest. Because
Estonia. I'm reliably informed that's Estonia.
Really?
Yes.
Wow, even just here, Manchester is Manchester Ely. Oh God, I'm gonna stop pronouncing things. But yeah, my favorite one is in Spain. The Stranger Times is called La Gazeta de Misterio.
Nice.
I mean, come on. That sounds like La Gazeta Misterio. Hello, ladies. Gonna work for La Gazeta Misterio. Fabulous.
Dominic E. Gray has a question. I've noticed some of the ad hoc characters have detailed introductions in your books. Do you ever start a character intro and just get carried away until the character becomes really integral?
Yes, several times. Literally, that is, people constantly come out. Bunny wasn't supposed to be a main character. That's how bad I am at this. Yeah, he just sort of came in, wouldn't leave. Stanley Roker from these books was the same. Cogs is also going to be going on further as well, I'm sure. So I've done that a lot in answer to your question. I get involved with a character. I started having fun. Next thing you know, they're one of my best mates, and they're in every book.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, is you get them on their feet talking to each other, and then you discover who they really are. That's how it works for me.
It's exactly that. And then, unfortunately, I've never met a character I didn't like. That's my problem. I keep writing characters I enjoy writing.
Right. I think we might be ready to bring Brendan on to talk about the audio book. So I'm going to go off and powder my nose, and then.
Thank you very much, Mark. Before that, where can everyone find out about your books and stuff? Make sure we get the plug in.
Go to witchesofwoodville.com. They're all there. You can join the Village Library and get lots of free ebooks as well, or come and find me. I'm not on Twitter much, but I do reply to stuff, so I'm at Mark Stay. I have more fun over on Instagram, which is at mark.stay, and I'm on the Facebook as well. But yeah, witchesofwoodville.com is where you'll find all the fun stuff.
Fabulous. And generally highly recommended. They get the full Caimh McDonnell seal of approval.
Thank you so much.
Which is very rare indeed. But listen, thank you very much, Mark. I do hang around. If you can be around for the end, we'll all do a weird wave thing at the end. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, the voice of the Stranger Times, Brendan McDonald, no relation. I'm going to bring him on now, and then Wonder Wife's going to do there he is.
Hello. Hi, Caimh.
How are you? Genuinely, the weird thing, myself and Brendan, we've been chatting backwards and forwards in email as has Wonder Wife for the last well over a year, like probably 18 months now, and we sort of met kind of for the first time this evening. Which is
it was like a prolonged blind date kind of build up. Like I think you've been grooming me for the last year and a half. To be honest.
Yeah, I've not been grooming myself, so it's good. It's good to know someone's getting
even all today for this. Jesus.
Oh, good. Well, that is a level of professionalism, my friend. I mean, to be fair, when we did a walkthrough earlier on, he was also wearing his hoodie and he took it off, and it was like, yeah. Like you can't get me out of a hoodie for loving or money.
Irish man.
Yeah, well, we're fancy dressers. So it's brilliant to have you here because, I mean, people have been such big fans of the books. Because I mean, let's talk before we get into the book, sort of. Because give us a brief your acting history. Take us through your CV, Brian.
History. Oh, darling, how long have you got? Well, I started in my early 20s. I'm now in my very, very late 40s, hurtling.
Go on,
towards
stop
50.
at your line. You can't be a day over 37.
49 and a third. Yeah, I was doing theatre for about 13 years, I think, and bits and bobs. And I kind of fell into voiceovers in the late 90s. I was a continuity announcer for a TV station here. And then I kind of found myself, I was doing more and more voiceover work. And it was kind of easier than the acting, not as time consuming, and oftentimes paid better as well.
Yeah.
And then kids came along, and it made more sense to not be off 6 days a week doing a play, and instead being able to hop into a studio for an hour and come home and spin a few plates with my wife. We had 2 kids very quickly, our boys here, and yeah, it was an easier kind of gig, I think, and I felt I was probably a bit better as a voiceover than an actor. Face for radio.
Exactly. You're talking to a man who gave up stand-up comedy because he didn't like leaving the house, and he realized if I gave up stand-up comedy, I could get dogs, and that's basically what I did.
There you go. Yeah.
By the way, any Irish people, you might recognize Brendan's voice, because the brilliant thing about knowing people who do voiceovers, because you're good mates with Morgan as well. You know Morgan well, who does the Bunny books. Yeah. But the weird thing is, when I'm home, is I can be in the cinema and stuff, and I will hear voiceovers on like various different adverts, and it'll be Morgan or it'll be Brendan. I mean, you took a message from me because you were the voice of a voicemail at one point.
Yeah, I do sometimes appear on phone things. The odd time it's happened where I've phoned someone myself, and it's myself coming back at me, and it's very meta and weird, and especially if I'm a bit pissed off and trying to go, shut up, you. Yeah. So, and I do get abusive messages from people saying, I've been waiting on this broadband thing for an hour, and it's you wanker.
So do you actually have to sit there and listen to yourself telling you that your call is important to you?
Oh, it's happened to me loads of times. Yeah, it's happened to me loads of times. Yeah.
Oh,
it's the slightly less glamorous side of voiceover stuff. It's
that's the same way as a friend of mine was one of the voices on the Couch to 5K fitness thing. For anyone who's probably not in Britain or Ireland, I think they have it in Ireland, but it's a thing to get people running and stuff. But she's done it with herself, telling herself to keep going. I mean, she's like, and literally she's telling me, like, talking to herself, going, "Feck off," and you know. But yeah. Because obviously you did a fantastic. I remember we did chat early doors when we were doing the books and stuff. So
we did. Like, very helpful it was too. Yeah.
But we'll ask you the question. I think I know the answer to this one. But what was the hardest voice to have to do?
Yeah, that is an easy one. The hardest voice was, without a doubt, for a 40-something-year-old Irish man. The hardest voice was the 50-something-year-old Ghanaian woman, Grace. So,
yeah, that was to be fair.
Your Wonder Wife Elaine was a huge help on that, and it's actually, there's a kind of perversity to it, because I can do most accents and that, and I enjoy it, and there's some accents you can just fly out, but I did actually enjoy the challenge of Grace, because I really had to work hard on it, and especially when there are times, mainly in the Stranger Times, where you might be having a 4-way conversation with Grace, with Stella, with Bancroft, and maybe Ox or someone is chiming in, and you're going from it and trying to hold on to Grace. And I was really aware, I just really didn't want to mess Grace up.
Yeah, no, I was the same. I think I've told this before, but I was at one point I was going to do the audiobooks when we first started off to my Bunny books. Like, I actually bought myself, I had a little sort of TARDIS, one of those booths, nice. I had that for my office and all that. And I was doing some lessons with a very good voice coach. And I was it's weird, because I found genuinely, I'm not going to play it for anybody, but I did a sample for her early doors when I was starting to do it. And I heard it back recently. It was like,
oh wow,
my God, that was so awful. Whereas by the end, I could kind of do some stuff, and I can sort of do Bunny or, but I think one of the big things I had was like going between voices is incredibly hard. And I remember literally when I was thinking about doing them, I was literally, myself and Elaine were in bed late one night. She was asleep. And I just went, in the middle of the night, I just went, feck it. And she was like, what? Oh, there's an Indian doctor. I was an Indian doctor in the first. I was like, oh God, I've written an Indian doctor in, which, as you know, makes sense in Ireland because there's loads of Indian doctors in the Irish Health Service. But I was like, oh my God, when I realized I had to try and voice it.
Well, a lot of authors do voice their own books, you know. I kind of wish they wouldn't because they put people like me out of a job.
No,
but,
dead right. I mean, they're scabs, effectively. Let's be honest. They should be. The unionism. The union is not. It's a. I mean, I guess it does make some sense because you think, well, at least the author can understand, what the lines are and stuff. Like, I know there's quite a few authors that do it. I was trying to think of. Oh yeah, there's quite a few I've listened to, and some do it brilliantly. The guy who does the Dexter books, who wrote the Dexter books, have you ever listened?
No.
Because Dexter is based on the TV. The TV show is based on the books.
Yeah.
And he's a serial killer and stuff. Because the man has just the creepiest voice. It really works. Oh, he's got. By the way, Elaine has asked if you could turn yourself up a bit because it's probably because I'm so loud.
If I could turn myself up.
Yeah, or maybe I'll turn myself.
Oh, do you know what? I just come in a little closer because I'm a bit far away.
Brilliant.
So how's that?
Yeah, because unfortunately I just shout and I've had a drink now, so it's not.
No, I didn't want to say, but yeah.
But yeah, the guy who does the Dexter books, because but he has genuinely a creepy voice.
Okay.
So it's quite an unusual thing. But because you've done such an amount. Because how many voices are there? Because I remember you told me you've got like extensives when you went to do the first book. When you went back to the second, you had the notes from the first. How many distinct voices were there?
For the Stranger Times, for the first one, it was 51 was the final count.
50. God.
Yeah. Thanks for that,
Craig. You should get paid extra. I mean, I'm not paying you. So
will you have a word with Penguin? Yeah.
Yeah. 50.
Yeah,
God.
51. Yeah.
And
now about 15 kind of, or maybe 15 to 20 kind of main characters, and obviously you have your core of Hannah and Bancroft and Ox and Reggie and Grace and Stella, and just the people who work in the Stranger Times. But you have a lot of ancillary characters as well around it, dotted around. I don't think there was quite as many in This Charming Man, but obviously it was a completely different approach. It was a far more straightforward job because, and again, it's the fun thing of this job to try and find the voice. Without sounding too acty about it, but to find the voice for the character, when you're about to go into a recording of that, and I was able just to listen back to the audible version of The Stranger Times and just go back and to be honest, Bancroft and Reggie and all those they didn't really leave me, and plus it helps, and I'm not just saying this because I'm talking to you, but I dearly loved the characters. I feel I have an affinity with those characters, and they were just so much fun to voice. I couldn't wait to get started again.
Well, thank you very much. But that's to be clear. I've told you you're great. You've told me we're great. This is as far as this is going. Irish people are not programmed to accept. But
I would stop. I was terrible. Stop.
Oh no. Say the funniest thing when I had to do literally for the Stranger Times because when we were doing the thing with the TV rights and all that, when like it was a lot of American companies were interested in stuff. So I had to have a lot of like phone conversations with Americans, and bless them. And this isn't me slagging off Americans, but it's just such a different approach where literally for these things, I can remember I was in America at the time. Myself and Elaine were in Florida at a conference. And I had this American producer, lovely woman, but she spent like the first 20 minutes telling me how great she thought I was. And I can remember just sitting in this hotel room, literally just clinging onto the table going, oh, please stop giving me praise. That woman said more nice things to me in 20 minutes than either of my parents ever did my entire childhood. And that's not me criticizing my parents.
The Irish way.
Yeah, we're not programmed for that kind of stuff.
No,
whereas obviously if you work in TV, you're very good at doing it. It's kind of that blarney. But as a general voiceover thing, after like, what's the weirdest thing you've ever had to say into a microphone for money? Because you must have done some weird gigs over the years.
Now I do a good bit of animation. So you find yourself voicing very strange characters. I voiced one of the earliest things I did was a despotic German piece of wasabi.
I was like despotic German and like that veered wildly piece of wasabi.
Yeah, who was kind of floating around.
That didn't even make any sense. Wasabi's not from Germany.
Well, the real kicker with this was, and he spoke in this German accent he had lots of crazy lines, but it was all Oscailga, so it was in Irish.
It was all in.
Yeah. So he would
Wow.
like be going, Tommy, taking off as a fault, or whatever. I had to read the lines phonetically because I didn't speak Irish well
Same
enough.
as
but-
myself, you weren't paying attention in school. Yeah.
Exactly. I've done
I
some
get that
really
a lot.
strange ones.
Because I use Caimh as my name, sort of thing.
Yeah.
The amount of times I've been at gigs and somebody from Ireland come up to me and start speaking in Irish, and I've had to go, yeah,
No.
I don't, you know, but you
I'm
name,
a-
yeah, but no.
Yeah, I'm the same. No, and I've acted in Irish. I did an Irish film, which is why I got the Irish cartoon series on the back of it, just bluffing really. And then they discovered I couldn't speak Irish, so I had to kind of write the lines out phonetically.
Well, it's the classic actor thing where it's the famous one is always, can you ride a horse? And people, of course I can.
Yes.
And it was like outside a shop. It was one of those little animatronic ones that just went up and down.
You didn't say a live horse.
So have you ever done any weird, because I knew some actor friends who did weird like things on stage as well. I'd one who had to put a saddle on herself and be ridden around by another woman. And it was when she was in university doing acting. And she always remembered that I was being ridden around by this other woman while I was pretending to be a horse. And then I saw my two parents in the front row going, wow, we just paid a lot of money to send her here.
Oh, Jesus. Okay, well, thankfully, I've never had any kind of onstage full embarrassment like that. There was I started out, I think I said, in this TV station here in Ireland in the late 90s, doing their promos and continuity, and there was a period where they were taking a load of programs in from the quality station that is Channel 5, and back in the kind of early 2000s, like it's like the Daily Mail and the Sun of television, you know. It was just awful programs.
And I remember celebrities, will they hump each other?
That would have been a good one. That compared to what I had to voice. I remember having to do one which was so, you know, you're doing the promo, so it's Saturday night at 9, whatever, blah blah, and it's me, my male voice, my big breasts and me, Saturday at 9. And then the other one was a program called Help, I Smell of Fish. And I had to voice these fucking things. So, yeah.
Help, I smell of fish.
Help, I smell of fish. Apparently, it's a real condition, not to be laughed at, Kate.
No, I mean, it mainly affects fish, to be fair. But that's what I'm saying. Yeah. When I'm doing the Stranger Times, that was when we're coming up with the articles. That's like, people sort of ask, what's the hardest thing to write in the book? It's genuinely coming up with the weird articles, because you can't come up with something weirder than what genuinely happens day to day.
That's like a lot of people have said over the last couple of years, and in the Trump era and everything, and now with the wonderful Mr. Johnson, where you were living, you know, when truth is stranger than fiction.
Yeah,
it's kind of tricky to write something like the Stranger Times.
No, it's genuinely, that's one of the hardest things, is coming up with the fake news things. Well, it's been a brilliant time talking to you, Brent. Thanks so much. I mean, again, I hope you've seen some of the comments there. I had to turn them off because, frankly, I was getting annoyed by how much people seem to like you more than me.
You see this one in the side here, Paul Fegan. Now, Paul Fegan was there earlier as Bit 16. Paul Fegan deserves a big shout out because recording Brendan for both books was amazing. Okay, but Paul himself deserves a big credit, audiobook wise, because he was essentially the voice director on it. He recorded them, and he was a great. He really steered me right when I was going off crazy.
Fair play, Paul. Lovely to have you here.
We were doing 8-hour sessions in the studio, and I'd be saying to him, "We got to do a Caimh will give out to us."
I was going to say 8 hours. God, that's a day's work.
Yeah. We're not used to doing days work, you know.
No, I mean, I know everyone else now is going, yeah, I work 8 hours every day, but you're not sitting down on the microphone talking.
They were tiring but rewarding. They were so much fun to do. So
well, brilliant, and you know, and you will obviously be doing them going forward and stuff, as everyone should know. And we're really excited to. And as you said, if you do enjoy them on the Audible and stuff, do put the reviews up. I'm a bit annoyed because he gets higher ratings than I do. I've noticed that. I've not gone into them in details, but I've noticed.
That's so unfair. Are you
he's
serious?
He's like a 4.9, and I'm only on a 4.8, which is travesty.
They were very kind on the reviews, yeah. And I only knew one of them, to be honest.
Yeah. The difference was the one you wrote yourself. But listen, it's been absolutely fantastic. You've done a brilliant job. It's been such great fun. I look forward to you asking me to hold a lot in the future. And thank you to Paul as well. And
to continue employing me, please press 1.
I'll be honest. I'm so tempted to come up with things to ring. I'll be sending you messages now. Would you mind recording this for me? I want to just wind somebody
No
up.
problem, man. I'd be delighted to.
Yeah, why not? Listen, thank you very much.
Thank you. Keith.
I'll just give you a round of applause. I feel I should applaud you
I'll
off.
give you a round of applause as well.
But thank you very much. We'll let you go,
Cheers,
Brent.
and thanks, everyone.
Sláinte.
I will.
Quickly, I know we're nearly done for time, but I know we've a few more questions and stuff I should probably get to. Somebody asked, I don't know if Mark wants to come back on. If not, I'll just keep. Oh, there he is. Oh, he's.
Brendan was Wasabi in Chop Socky Chooks. That was my kid's favorite cartoon a few years ago. It's so,
Okay.
Wasabi is a legend in our household. Yes, just time for a few more questions. Are we going to do the giveaway thing now or in a minute?
Yes, I just realised we haven't done the giveaway. If you're nice enough to come tonight and you've managed to stay all the way through to the end, which is we're nearly at the end now. We do 5-10 more minutes. If you email Elaine, do you want to pop it up there? The thingy. I don't know if you can hear, but the storm's getting much louder behind me. Can you hear that?
Nope.
Because my office is properly shaking. Yeah. Email Elaine at the normal thing, and you'll be entered in a draw to win a signed copy of the. No, hang on, not the signed copy of the Stranger Time. Have you taken this from the previous one, love? It's going to be. That's two. What? Jeez, I think Elaine's having a moment with the caption machine. What you're going to win. Elaine, do you want to pop on and explain yourself? Have you been drinking the rum a bit too much?
No, it's not the Stranger Times, sorry. I had edited it, but for some reason, I decided to revert back to what was there before. It should be This Charming Man. So there'll be one signed copy of This Charming Man. No, sorry, I'm telling porkies, aren't I?
Yeah. Do you want me to explain? She's drunk. She is just out of her mind, folks. Let's be honest. What we're going to do is you can
hold stuff up.
You can get the merch, which is basically, this is exclusive. There's very few of these available anywhere. You will get, if you win the competition, you will get the Stranger Times notebook. But there we go. The Stranger Times key ring with one of the keys that opens the Stranger Times offices, which are a very important part of the plot, as you will know. And you will also get a signed proof copy of the third book in the series. It basically means you'll get it like 2 or 3 months before everyone else does. Because when they send out proofs, they're generally to journalists. But we're going to send one to one of you lucky people. Because we figured you've already bought the second one, God love yous. So we'll send you a signed copy of the third book. And to get that, all you need to do is email elaine@maforiinc.com, which is, the normal Wonder Wife email address. Or also, though, if you'd like another shot at getting the same thing, what you can do is, if you tweet a copy or Instagram a copy of a picture of yourself holding This Charming Man, it could be the hardback or the ebook or the audiobook. You can hold up the thingy. You do that on Twitter and thing, at Caimh. And then we'll gather everyone who's done that in the next week, starting from now. And you can also win yourself that exclusive Money Cannot Buy. And then, and also we'll send in a copy of the newspaper to you as well, which we've done the Strange Times newspaper, which is the 8-page thing. So, big prizes, big prizes. So yes, and again, thanks to everybody. You've been absolutely fantastic. Was there any other questions we needed to get to, or did we sort of cover everything?
We've got one left, and it's the inevitable TV question. Deb Dunn Johnson says, does that mean, because you mentioned TV, does that mean we might be watching some of your books on TV soon?
I can tell you on both sides, both the Stranger Times and the Bunny books, things are progressing. The Stranger Times, there's a network in America that are working with the producers and stuff, but that's one of these things where they're sort of interested. But you know yourself, Mark, TV is like 12 steps. And everything can look credible till you get to step 11, and then it can still all go to nothing very quickly. We're kind of at step 5 or 6, maybe 4 or 5 on one of them, 5 or 6 on the other one. But the Bunny books and stuff, they're talking to people as various writers and stuff. So both sides are progressing. Obviously, it'd be great, but because we want a bigger garden for the dogs. But but yes, just quickly on the questions that were sent in as well earlier on, did we hit most of those? I hope we did.
We've hit most of those. Yeah, we've covered a lot of that.
I just want to make sure we didn't leave one out. And I think that's everything, unless we've
reviews. Leave reviews.
Do leave reviews. I mean, buy the book, leave reviews. I promise I'll stop from now on, by the way, because if you're on the main list, you're probably going, oh God, he mentions this every time. I'm going to stop to asking you to buy this Charming Man for the next email, I promise you. Because in a month's time, the next Bunny book is coming out from a month tomorrow, 28 days from tomorrow to be exact. So that is Firewater Blues. And I can tell you, by the way, the audiobook for that, we literally just got the files from Morgan 15 minutes before it came on from doing this tonight. So we'll start listening to them next week and hopefully they'll be out at the same time. But I think we've covered everything. You've been absolutely lovely as always, folks. Thanks so much for you coming out. Who would you love to play Buddy, Emer? That's the question people always ask. And I'll tell you now, it's whoever the producers cast. I mean, people always have their favorite bunny. I think there's a name that's let's say the leader in the clubhouse. And to be honest, one of his sons is probably about third or fourth on that list. I'll just say that. Probably an Irish actor. Maybe Tom Cruise will do it. He's not doing Reacher anymore, so that might be a bit. By the way, have you seen the Reacher series, Mark?
No, I've not got there yet. I've got.
It is. Look, I'm probably going to recommend this to you. It is a lot of fun. It's hilarious though because in the books, like he's a big tall guy, but they don't. In the TV show, it's mentioned like 3 times every episode. It's almost like they're going, yeah, we get it. Tom Cruise was the wrong height. We get it. Tom Cruise was the wrong height. To the point where it's become like the actual TV series is funnier than the books because they're kind of doing jokes that are almost about the fact that Tom Cruise played the character. So listen, ladies and gentlemen, you've been absolutely brilliant as always. Thanks so much for turning up. I hope we got to most of your questions. Anything we missed, by all means, email us in. We'll be doing this again on March 17th, aka Paddy's Day, where we will have Morgan C. Jones, who has been the voice of Bunny for several years now. I think this is his 12th book he's narrating now for us, or 11th anyway. And he will be here with us. That's right. You can spend St. Patrick's Day in the company of 2 almost certainly drunk Irishmen. But thanks very much, Mark. Thank you again for you. The Witches of Woodville, as always, folks, highly recommended. And some of you, if you're in the north of England, it'd be great to see you in Manchester tomorrow night. We're really excited about that. And I will be flying around trying to sign books in Liverpool, Leeds and stuff the next few days. And there's plenty down in London now. You've all been absolutely brilliant. I'm going to have another drink. And then we can let you all go home. I mean, you're already home. We can let you all go and do whatever else. Watching the Winter Olympics. I mean, we're all glued to that.
Jackie's asked me to stop waving this about, but it's sorry, Jackie. It's starting to make a buzzing noise.
Do you know what? I'm going to finish this thing off by telling a story that I told yesterday in the pub to my editor. It has nothing to do with anything. I'll be honest, it's a little crude, but it's absolutely true. And we'll finish on this. Before I was working in stand-up and stuff, I used to work in IT. I worked in a company in Dublin. We were on a big site for, I can say it now, fuck it. It was a company called Xerox, you all know. I think they're out of business now, where they're doing weird, but they had a massive thing in Dublin, right? Like thousands of people. And we were the company that was supporting the back end of it, right? At a certain point, in one of the big server farms, when anyone works in the company, these things with like millions of pounds, literally, of servers in there. It was found in one of them a sex toy. No one knew how it got there, but like literally they had an investigation because our manager and the Xerox manager going around and he was going, well, it wasn't one of our guys, but it wasn't one of our guys. And obviously nobody owned up to it. To this day, the theory where it came from. But basically this happened, right? So that in itself was weird. Then we had a lovely lady called Mary who was like literally the mother of our team. Like she was the PA to the head guy Lorcan. And I say the mother of the team, her son was working with us. She was literally mother to one of us, but she was basically mother to all of us, right? Lorcan had to come back. He had this sex toy thing after the meeting and he shoved it into his drawer. And then he made the mistake of telling our team leaders, I got to get rid of that bloody thing, but I don't want to take it out when Mary's here because I'm embarrassed if Mary sees it. So he eventually took it out and threw it in a bin. We found out, we took it out of the bin and we put it back in his drawer. So the next day he opened his drawer and like, slams the door shut, right? He's then trying to get rid of it. He took it in a bag and we basically put our own boss under surveillance. He put it in a bag, went round to a dumpster at the back of the office and threw it in. We fished it back out and we stuck it in his bag. So literally, he went home, opened his bag when he was at home with his wife and kids, went, oh, closed the bag again. For some reason, he brought it back into work, I think to find out who done it, right? At this point, he then tried to get rid of it somewhere else, and he gave out about it. He threw it away, right? We then found it and put it in his car. And apparently, how a senior manager for this thing got rid of this dildo was he drove somewhere in the middle of the country and fired it out the window of his own car into a field full of cows. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was why I was a bad employee in IT. Me, and it has to be said, everyone else on that team. But there you go, gentlemen. That's the end of the evening. That's the way I'm finishing the evening. With
what a lovely note to end the evening on.
Thank you for all of you who've now not left yet. Listen, you've been brilliant, folks. Thank you very much. We're going to leave it